Okay, so you did it. You actually read Plato's early dialogues, the Euthyphro, the Apology, the Crito. First of all, that's a huge accomplishment, seriously. But now you're probably asking yourself, all right, what's next? Well, think of this as your personal guide, a kind of roadmap for the next leg of your philosophical journey. We're going to start right where Socrates left us with this incredibly powerful, really challenging statement. This single idea that a life of constant questioning and reflection is essential is pretty much the theme for our whole exploration today. It's why we bother reading Plato in the first place, right? So before we look forward, let's just take a moment to look back at what you've already done, because it is no small thing to dive headfirst into these foundational texts. And here's what's so important. You haven't just read a summary on Wikipedia. You've engaged directly with the source. You've been right there in the room, so to speak, following along as Socrates questions everyone around him. You've wrestled with the exact same arguments that have captivated and frustrated thinkers for thousands of years. And just look at the concepts you've already tackled. You've seen the Socratic method, that relentless questioning, up close. You've grappled with that thorny Euthyphro dilemma about morality. You've dug into these massive questions about goodness, wisdom, and justice. This is the absolute bedrock of Western thought, and you've already started laying the foundation. So, the big question, where does the road lead from here? Don't think of this as a required reading list. Think of it more like a map of potential adventures, a guide to exploring these ideas even more deeply. The most natural next step, of course, is just more Plato. You could jump into the Meno, which asks if virtue is something you can actually teach, and it introduces this wild idea that learning is really just remembering. Or there's the Phaedo, a really moving dialogue about the soul's immortality, all happening on Socrates' last day. And then you've got the big one, the Republic. It's Plato's masterpiece on justice and building the perfect society. Reading that whole thing is a true intellectual adventure. Or, hey, maybe you're ready to look beyond Plato. You could check out his star student Aristotle, who takes a more down-to-earth approach to figuring out the good life. You could leap forward in time to the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius and read his private journal on Stoicism. Or you could see what happens when these Greek ideas crash into theology with thinkers like Augustine or Boethius. Every single one of them is keeping that Socratic conversation going. Now, it's really important to get this. Philosophy doesn't just exist in its own little bubble. The questions you've been asking with Plato, they connect to, well, literally everything else. Just think about it for a second. The greatest works of literature are packed with philosophical questions. History itself is shaped by these ideas. The people who founded entire countries were reading Plato. Theology has been in a constant 2,000-year-long conversation with philosophy. Even modern science, which seems so different, grew out of that same philosophical search for truth. It is all connected. Okay, but let's pull back from the grand sweep of history for a minute. Let's make this much more personal. Let's bring philosophy home, into your own life. Here's the most crucial point of all. The examined life isn't some destination you finally arrive at. You don't get a certificate or a medal. It's a practice. It's a habit you build, day in and day out. A habit of questioning your own assumptions, reflecting on your choices, and always seeking the truth. So, what does this practice actually require from you? Well, it's the same virtues we saw in Socrates himself. It takes honesty, being willing to admit, you know what, I was wrong. It takes courage to ask the really hard questions, especially of yourself. And maybe most of all, it takes humility, that true Socratic wisdom of knowing deep down just how much you still don't know. So, you've spent time with Socrates. You've seen what it looks like to chase the truth with everything you've got, even when facing death. And all of that brings us to one very simple question. And it's the same question Socrates spent his entire life asking other people. And it's the one he now asks of you. How will you live? That right there is the ultimate takeaway. That's the challenge Plato leaves us with. Your journey has only just begun.